Just picked up this Falcon steering stabilizer for my 2014 JK Jeep. This is the 1 3/8 inch clamp that fits the factory tie rod. So see, it's packaged real nice. I'm going to replace this rough country dual stabilizer that came with the Jeep when I bought it used. You can see it's had some, and I didn't do this, it came like this. I think it had some contact with the drag link there, and I'm getting contact when it's turned all the way over. I'm getting contact on this end point, and you can kind of see a little wear mark on the body. So it's gonna be a lot nicer to go back to a single setup, get rid of this bracket in the middle, and just all this stuff that is somewhat unnecessary. I spent a little more money than I needed to on the Falcon part because I didn't want to deal with the relocation brackets. I'm sure they're fine, but the Synergy relocation bracket that has a nice double clamp and then a nice tie rod clamp would be $100 for the pair anyway, and then like a nice Fox steering stabilizer would be another $160, even if I went with a cheaper like Bilstein, which I didn't really want the Bilstein because it was gas pressurized and I didn't want it to push. So if I went with something like a Terraflex, it still would have been in the ballpark of $160. So for all the parts, this thing's about $100 more, but it comes complete. There's no cobbling, it's purpose built. So we'll get this put on. So before I get too far, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to get this one shock out of the way. And I'm going to take off, I have a adapter bracket for the track bar, so the Falcon shock is supposed to mount through the original factory track bar location. I'm going to take this guy off, I think it's a 22 mil, and make sure that I still have the factory flag bolt, and make sure that it threads on before I get too far and disassemble too many things. So we're going to take the shock out to get access. So this is why I wanted to check the location, or what hardware was in the location for the stock track bar. It was not the factory flag nut, it was just a regular old nut on there, locking nut, and it's not the same thread pitch as the part for the Falcon stabilizer. This is a coarse pitch. Falcon stabilizer has a finer pitch, so these are M14 with a 1.5 thread. So I got just a regular one and a locking one to see which one fits better as far as depth. So if you do need to replace the hardware, I'm not sure if the factory, I read on one review that somebody still ended up having to replace the nut because the factory was a different thread pitch. So you may just want to pick up a couple nuts. Again, it's M14s with a 1.5 thread, just in case, because it does not come with hardware for this end of the bolt. So we're going to go ahead and fit this up and then start disassembling everything else. But you can see I kind of left it mostly intact just in case I wasn't able to get all the hardware so I could get it back to driving. So I got the mount bolt tightened down. The spec in the box, the noise has it at, where is it, right about 220 foot-pounds. I think that's right. The factory bolt is somewhere between 120 and 130 foot-pounds, and the instructions for a lot of the different kits have you tighten the track bar right around there, around 130 foot-pounds. So trying to get this with a crow's foot to 220 is one hell of a feat. I don't think it's possible. No, I guess it could be possible, but I don't think it's right. I'm going with a factory torque, or at least trying to achieve the factory torque around 120. Fortunately, my crow's foot's only 3/8, so my 3/8 wrench only goes to 100. I've already torqued it to 100, and I may just give it a little bit of an extra twist with a breaker bar just to tighten it up a little bit more. But I don't even think, when it came off, it wasn't even at 100, so it should be fine at 100 or whatever, a little bit of extra torque I can put on it. So anyway, we're gonna cinch that down just a little bit more. Got all the other remnants of the rough country kit off, and we're going to go ahead and mount the rest of it. Shouldn't be too bad. So one thing I'm going to do is get my steering straight in the Jeep, even this guy out, so measure each side, make sure this is centered, and then drop it on. So to be able to get this centered, I ran it to either side, and I used, and I'm not sure if it's going to show up in the video, but yeah, you can see a little line there where the O-ring, when I bottomed it out on this end, O-ring left a mark, and I left a mark there. So I use those as my stop points to the body, stop point to the body, and centered it up. And so now we're good to try to get this guy, start getting this guy installed. So we have it, the Falcon unit, just rough fitted right now. You can see it's pretty square. I just got the nut tightened up a little bit, and I've got the bracket hand tight. I'm going to throw some blue Loctite on that in a second here. But so again, the instructions for the Falcon unit are a little, I don't know, a little concerning. They say 90 foot-pounds for this nut. This is all the same size hardware as what the factory stabilizer would have. So again, I'm going to go with the factory torque, which is 50 foot-pounds. So I'm going to torque this at 50. I got this guy to 100 with my wrench, and then I gave it a little bit of an extra turn to try to hit somewhere around, you know, guesstimating around 120, 125, because I don't have a crow's foot big enough to get on that. So we're gonna hit this guy with 50, and then probably run it, make sure that I'm not rubbing, and throw some Loctite on the clamp and be done with it. But you can see it's pretty nice looking unit here. Pretty good clearance. You know, just with it rough fit, we got great clearance on the drop. Pretty good clearance in there. It's much better than what I have with the Rough Country duals. So hopefully this will work out well. All right, so we got our Loctite on these 5mm hexes that hold the clamp on, and have it all torqued down to 15 foot-pounds. That's the only one that I used the instructions torque spec for, because there wasn't any other torque spec to use. So that was about 180 inch-pounds. That seemed pretty reasonable to get it good and tight so it doesn't slide. I didn't feel it binding or anything stopping me, so gotta be a little careful because it is into aluminum. But so we got that guy torqued up, this guy to 50, and then the track bar bolt to about 120-ish. So now it's all centered up. I'm going to fire up the Jeep and swing the tires to both extremes, make sure I have plenty of clearance and it doesn't bottom out. Here we have it all the way to the left. You can see where the bottom out line is. We're nowhere near it. Don't seem to have any contact anywhere. Now we're going to swing it all the way to the right. Okay, we're all the way right. Again, see where the line is, didn't bottom it out. That other line right there, closer one in, second line, that's from when I bumped over to the stop on the hydraulics. So still plenty of room in this line right here. Tons of clearance. This is much better than that dual shock setup, at least from the clearance standpoint. So I'm going to center it back up, take it out for a spin, but everything looks good.